So essentially, what we're doing is cancer is one of the leading causes of death in the nation across the world, right? Mm-hmm. So what we found is that, well, not us, but what we found is that they have phytochemicals. Phytochemicals are compounds that usually found in fruits, vegetables, nuts, things of that nature, usually some sort of plants, right? Mm-hmm. So what we've seen is that these chemicals typically have activity, usually some sort of anti-diabetic or anti-cancerous, anti-tumorigenic, something of that nature. So they have a wide range of biological activities. They're basically kind of like golden chemicals, if you will. So essentially what we're trying to do is take that parent compound of a chalcol and essentially make slight modifications to it and see how well they do in the breast cancer line, right? So what we're doing is what my job is to do is synthesize these compounds and make slight modifications to them. And then from there, we send them off to the pharmacy where they test them on breast cancer cells and we see how well they do in preventing them from cancer cells. Do you have any questions? So,
what is that?
Okay, right here you have essentially your parent compound of a chalcol, what a typical chalcol usually looks like, the basic structure of it. So what we do is at these positions we have the R1, R2, R3. What I'm doing is taking different constituents and adding them onto the string and saying, okay, how well can we make this compound, right? So after we do that, we're just playing around with it essentially. At that point, I take that and I analyze it. And I say, okay, I run a TLC, a thin layer chromatography. And what I'm doing is I'm saying, what did I make? Is it pure? If I determine that it's pure, I take it to GC. If I get a GC and I say, okay, it has the same molecular weight than what I'm trying to make, that's cool. I take it on to NMR. If NMR says that I have the right structure, I can send it on to College Pharmacy where we test them on, specifically on here, triple negative breast cancer cells among African American women and Caucasian. So what we've seen is that in terms of biological activity, we're seeing that we're reducing the proliferation of cancer cells by 80% in African American females and around the same range in Caucasian females. So you may be wondering why was this need for triple negative breast cancer cells? So the problem is with normal breast cancer, we have usually 3 receptors. Triple negative breast cancer cells don't have any of those receptors that we typically target. So the issue comes in, we can't administer the same drugs for regular breast cancer cells that we can triple negative breast cancer cells. So what we have to do is develop a compound that attacks them in a different way. So what these compounds actually do is genetically modify cancer cells that cause cell death. So what we're doing is essentially making a compound that not just finds said cancer cells, but also causes them to kill themselves, rather than just inhibit them from growing.
So cancer cell suicide?
Essentially.
Okay.
That's what we're trying to figure out. So what we're trying to do is get to a point where we can find out a drug, basically the golden molecule, if you will, and see, okay, man, it's easy to make. We figured out the synthesis, we figured out a way to make it, and it's really easy, we have good yields on it. Now after that, we say, okay, cool, it's really pure, it's what the compound that we want. After we've done the analysis, we can say, we send it off to the College Pharmacy. They say that, okay, we've tested the cell among Caucasian and African American women in terms of triple negative breast cancer and saying, okay, we reduced the proliferation of the cells to 0% and we're getting a reduction in the amount of cells that are present. If we can get to that point, then we got into a successful position where we really want to be. Right now, we're in a good spot in which we're preventing the proliferation of the cells. We want to get to a point where we can do this with a much lower concentration.
Okay. Cool.